Hi guys, my name is Gabe Hare, and my partner today is Seth Harrington. Today we'll be discussing about problem-oriented policing. What is it? Well, in today's world, our law enforcement is faced with a lot of scrutiny and judgment. As people, we tend to question the police and their motives and how they go about certain operations and procedures. Now, this isn't a negative thing, but it does mean that as future officers, we have to make sure that we're following the law and abiding by all of the laws at all the time. Our entire purpose as officers is to help make communities better and deter and stop crime. Something that some departments tend to utilize is this method of problem-oriented policing. The definition of problem-oriented policing is analytical method used by police to develop strategies that prevent and reduce crime. This is according to crimesolution.gov, which in short terms means that if there are a lot of crimes that are committed within the given area after time and time again, then the law enforcement within that given area will try to come up with strategies of how to prevent and stop more crime. They can use many different techniques and strategies when using this method. It can range from having different types of surveillance cameras at different locations, along with talking with different leaders in the city or in the town, or with company boards to have certain structures in the city demolished or torn apart if there are a lot of crimes at that location or at that building. One of the most common actions that departments use is having officers patrol different sections of area. They can place either more or less officers within given areas. Those areas are called hotspots, which is kind of like a slang term, but it basically means that there's a lot of activity there or that they get called there quite often. Why do we do it? Since we know what it is now, we can talk about certain agencies and why certain departments do it. One of the lesser reasons for doing it is so that they have a quick reaction time. If they place officers there within the hotspot or the area, then when someone calls or when they get notified from the dispatcher, they take away or they eliminate that gap between taking action. If you already have an officer that's present and in the area, then he can act, and he can act quickly. When crimes are committed, acting immediately is one of the smartest things. You can gather some of the best information. The longer you wait, the more you could lose in terms of detail and other things. Another reason, and one of the most common reasons for doing this, is to deter crime. Now, before I was talking about stopping crime, so stopping crime is the action that the officers take once the crime is committed. Deterring crime is completely different. Deterring it is preventing it from happening. So if you have a lot of officers within that given area, and you have certain would-be criminals or people that might commit crimes, and they see all those officers, or that they know all those officers are there, hypothetically speaking, they will be less likely to want to commit those crimes. So I'm going to change you over to my partner Seth now, and he's going to be talking about whether or not it works. So here's Seth.
Does problem-oriented policing work? So problem-oriented policing, aka POP or POP, is effective for reducing crime in high crime-rated places, or as officers call it, hotspots. POP can be effective for improving relationships with the community that would hopefully slow down that crime rate. So, like, hopefully that if they're in a hotspot, hopefully people would recognize those officers more and realize that, oh, okay, and get kind of comfortable with those officers. Parts of the POP that involve collecting and following up on tips from the community potentially leads to solving more serious crimes. So, next slide is how are problems identified and addressed? So, the problems that are filed, the problems that are filed and given to the officers by the community, these problems are addressed with 4 steps. That process is known as the SARA model. So SARA stands for scanning, analysis, response, and assessment. Scanning would be the problems are identified. Analysis would be officers ask questions to try to learn everything they can. Response would be based on the analysis, a response to that problem is tried. And the assessment would be the response is elevated so they can see if the problem was solved or not. Next slide would be, should we still use this system or should we still use this, what we've been using? I feel like we should still use this. If it is helping us have a faster reaction time to crimes, then we should definitely still use it. It helps those officers lower the crime rate in those areas. With more police officers in hot spots, then those crime rates will drop, which I feel like if it is lowering the rate, then we should still use this process around the United States. Because we already have a system made for this exact reason, if the system works, then we should, still use it. In San Diego, they use a system like this called SARA, which we talked about in the last slide. It has proven to work in San Diego. When they figure out a hotspot, they will put more officers in those spots, or they will have more patrols in those areas. Then they put fewer officers in the smaller crimed areas, or crime-rated areas. With all these things, I believe that we should still use the system because it has been proven to work. So for the conclusion, there are many different types of strategies that officers use to reduce crime rates. With this strategy, it helps stop crime and lower the crime rate in these areas. They look at areas with more crime rates, and then they will go there to figure out strategies. The reason why they put more officers in these hotspots is because of a criminal were to see an officer nearby, that would hopefully stop that person or soon-to-be criminal from doing the crime that they would do. They use this method of POP in San Diego. The system that they use is called SARA, which stands for System Analysis, Response, and Assessment. I feel like cops should also be doing this method because it has reports of working. And to also add on with that, I feel like it I feel like helps out more because we have more officers in those high crime rated areas.